The irony wasn't lost on David. The 5 college football players standing near the coffee shop counter were wearing Marine Corps t-shirts, the kind sold at military surplus stores with slogans like "The Few, the Proud" and "Eagles and Flags." Hero worship from kids who'd never served a day. And yet here they were, mocking an actual Marine in a wheelchair, making jokes about him being broken and useless. David almost smiled at the absurdity. He'd spent 6 years serving the country these kids claimed to admire. He'd been shot at, blown up, and had killed enemies to protect American lives. And now they were treating him like garbage because his legs didn't work anymore. But in about 5 minutes, when his former platoon showed up for their monthly coffee meetup, these kids would learn the difference between wearing the shirt and earning the title. For more powerful videos about our military heroes, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue to tell these important stories. Captain David Chen, 29 years old, rolled his wheelchair through the entrance of Summit Coffee House, a popular coffee shop near the University of California campus in San Diego. It was 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and the place was packed with college students studying, socializing, and caffeinating. David came here every first Saturday of the month for the same reason, to meet up with members of his former Marine Scout sniper platoon. It was a tradition they'd started 3 years ago after David's injury, as a way to stay connected and support each other through the transition from military to civilian life. The coffee shop was modern and spacious, with high ceilings, large windows, and plenty of room for David to navigate his wheelchair. He'd been coming here long enough that the staff knew him by name and always had his usual order ready: black coffee, double shot. But today felt different. As David rolled toward the counter, he immediately noticed 5 young men dominating the center of the shop. They were clearly college athletes, probably football players based on their size and the university athletic gear they wore. All 5 were massive, well over 6 feet tall, heavily muscled, and radiating the kind of casual arrogance that came from being campus celebrities. What caught David's attention, though, was their shirts. All 5 were wearing Marine Corps t-shirts. One had USMC emblazoned across the chest. Another wore a shirt with the eagle, globe, and anchor emblem. A third had "Devil Dogs" written in bold letters. David had seen this before. Young men who admired the Marines from a distance, who bought the merchandise and wore it as a fashion statement, but who had never served and likely never would. There was nothing wrong with supporting the military, but something about these particular kids set David's instincts on edge. Maybe it was the way they were talking, loud, aggressive, dominating the space. Or maybe it was the way they were treating the barista, a young woman who looked increasingly uncomfortable with their crude jokes and demanding attitude. David rolled up to the counter to place his order, positioning his wheelchair in line behind an elderly woman. "Yo, check it out," one of the football players said, his voice deliberately loud. "Wheelchair guy." His friends turned to look. David kept his eyes forward, his expression neutral. He'd learned long ago not to react to comments like that. "Bro, that's messed up," another player said, though his tone suggested he found it amusing rather than sympathetic. "Wonder what happened to him." "Probably born like that," a third offered. "Genetics or whatever." David's jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't respond. The elderly woman in front of him ordered her coffee and moved aside. David rolled forward to the counter. "Hey, David," the barista, a college student named Maya, greeted him with a warm smile. "The usual?" "Please," David replied, "and maybe a blueberry muffin today." "You got it." As Maya turned to make his coffee, one of the football players, the largest one, who appeared to be the group's leader, approached the counter, deliberately stepping into David's space. "Yo, Wheels, you gonna move or what? Some of us got places to be." David turned his wheelchair slightly to look up at the kid. He was maybe 21, 6'5", probably 260 pounds of muscle. His Marine Corps t-shirt was tight enough to show off his physique, and he wore it with the kind of pride reserved for people who'd never actually earned the title. "I'm waiting for my order," David said calmly. "I'll move when I get it." "Yeah, but you're taking up a lot of space," the kid pressed. "Maybe you should wait over there." He pointed to a corner of the shop. David's eyes narrowed slightly, but his voice remained level. "I'm fine here, thanks." The football player smirked and returned to his friends. David could hear them laughing, could hear fragments of their conversation. "Thinks he owns the place. Probably on disability, living off our tax dollars. At least we can walk, bro." Maya returned with David's coffee and muffin, her expression apologetic. "I'm sorry about them," she whispered. "They've been jerks all morning." "It's fine," David said, handing her his credit card. "Not your fault." As David took his coffee and turned his wheelchair toward the seating area where he usually met his platoon, one of the football players deliberately stepped into his path. "Oops, didn't see you there," the kid said, not moving. "Excuse me," David said politely. "What's the magic word?" Another player chimed in, and they all laughed. David took a slow breath. 6 years as a Marine Scout sniper had taught him patience, the ability to wait hours, even days, for the perfect moment. But it had also taught him to recognize when a situation was escalating unnecessarily. "I'd like to get past, please," David said, his voice still calm but carrying an edge now. "Why? What are you going to do about it if we don't move?" the leader challenged. Before David could respond, one of the other players, wearing a Devil Dogs shirt, spoke up with false sympathy. "Guys, come on, be nice, he's handicapped. We should be, understanding." The word handicapped was delivered with just enough condescension to make it clear it wasn't meant kindly. You're right, the leader said, his voice dripping with mock concern. "Sorry, man, it must be really hard being, limited." David's hands gripped his wheelchair's armrests a bit tighter, but his face remained impassive. "I'm not limited," he said quietly. "I'm just seated." Right, another player said. "But you can't do what we can do. You can't run, can't play sports, can't, be normal." The cruelty of the comment hung in the air. Several other customers in the coffee shop had noticed the confrontation and were watching, but no one intervened. David looked up at the 5 athletes standing over him, at their Marine Corps t-shirts, at their casual contempt for someone they saw as weak and broken. "Those shirts you're wearing," David said calmly, "do you know what they mean?" The leader looked down at his USMC shirt. "Yeah, bro, Marines, toughest warriors in the world, Semper Fi and all that." "Have any of you served?" David asked. The players exchanged glances. "Nah, man, but we respect the troops. We're patriots." "You respect the troops," David repeated slowly, "but you're standing here mocking a disabled veteran." There was a beat of silence. "Wait, you're military?" one of the players asked, his tone skeptical. "Marines," David said. 6 years, Captain Scout Sniper." The leader laughed. "Yeah, okay, sure you were." "You don't believe me?" David asked. "Dude, no offense, but look at you. You're in a wheelchair. Snipers have to, crawl around and climb stuff. How would you even—" He trailed off, realizing how his words sounded. David's expression didn't change. "I became paralyzed in Afghanistan. IED explosion, spinal injury. I served 6 years before that happened." "Oh," one of the players said, looking slightly uncomfortable now. That's rough, man." "Yeah, real rough," the leader added, but his tone was still mocking. "But what are you gonna do now? Just sit around? Seems pretty boring compared to what we do." "And what do you do?" David asked. "We're D1 football players, bro. We're gonna go pro. We're winners. We actually do something with our lives." David was quiet for a moment, and then he said something that made the entire coffee shop go silent. "I've killed 89 people." The football players stared at him. "What?" the leader asked. 89 confirmed enemy combatants, David continued, his voice still calm, still measured. "As a Marine Scout sniper, that was my job, to eliminate high-value targets from long distance, and I was very good at it." The players looked uncertain now, caught between disbelief and the unsettling realization that David might be telling the truth. That's messed up, man," one of them said. "It was war," David replied, "and those 89 people I killed, they were trying to kill American soldiers, Marines, people like me, so I stopped them." "You can't just say stuff like that," the leader said, his bravado returning. "You're probably making it up. Stolen valor or whatever." "Stolen valor is when someone lies about their service," David said. "I'm not lying." "Prove it," the leader challenged. David reached into the bag attached to his wheelchair and pulled out a military ID card. He held it up for them to see. "Captain David Chen, United States Marine Corps, MOS 0321, Reconnaissance Marine, Scout Sniper Qualified." The players leaned in to look at the ID, their expressions shifting from mockery to uncertainty. "Okay, so you were military," the leader conceded. "But that doesn't make you special. Lots of people serve. You want a medal or something?" "I have 3, David said quietly. Bronze Star with V device for valor, Purple Heart, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with Combat V. Before the players could respond, the coffee shop door opened. 2 Marines walked in, both in their late 20s, both wearing civilian clothes but carrying themselves with unmistakable military bearing. They saw David immediately and their faces lit up. "Ironside," one of them called out, using David's call sign. David's expression softened into a genuine smile. "Marcus, Jesse, good to see you." The 2 Marines approached, and then Marcus noticed the 5 football players surrounding David's wheelchair. "Everything okay here, sir?" Marcus asked, his tone shifting from friendly to protective. "Just having a conversation," David replied. "Didn't look like a conversation," Jesse said, his eyes moving from player to player with the kind of assessment that came from years of identifying threats. The coffee shop door opened again. 3 more Marines walked in, then 2 more, then 4 more. Within 5 minutes, 40 Marines had filled Summit Coffee House, some in civilian clothes, some in PT gear, all converging on their monthly meetup, and every single one of them, upon seeing David, made their way over to greet him. The 5 football players found themselves surrounded by a wall of warriors, men and women who'd served in combat zones, who'd earned their titles through blood and sacrifice, who looked at David Chen with respect and brotherhood. One of the Marines, a woman in her 30s with short cropped hair, noticed the football players' shirts and laughed. "Nice USMC shirt," she said to the leader. "Where'd you buy it? Hot Topic?" We support the Marines," he stammered. "By mocking a Marine captain?" Another Marine asked, his voice cold. "That's an interesting way to show support." Marcus, who'd been one of the first to arrive, stepped forward and addressed the football players directly. "You guys have any idea who you were messing with?" The players shook their heads. "This," Marcus said, gesturing to David, "is Captain David Chen, call sign Ironside, one of the finest scout snipers the Marine Corps has ever produced." 89 confirmed kills over 4 deployments, Jesse added, most of them at ranges exceeding 800 yards. A older Marine, a gunnery sergeant in his 40s, spoke up. "Captain Chen once held a position for 14 hours without moving, without eating, without drinking water, waiting for a high-value target to appear. When the target finally showed, Captain Chen made a 1,200-yard shot in high wind conditions. One shot, one kill. That shot saved an entire Marine convoy from an ambush. Another Marine continued the story. Captain Chen's call sign is Ironside. You know why? Because nothing broke his focus. He could be under fire, taking casualties, surrounded by chaos, and he'd still make the shot. Calm, precise, perfect. A female Marine stepped forward. I was pinned down by enemy fire in Helmand Province. Captain Chen was 2 miles away on a ridgeline. He eliminated 7 enemy combatants in under 3 minutes, giving my squad time to extract. I'm alive because of him. The football players were silent now, the mockery completely gone from their faces. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed them a photograph. This is Captain Chen in Afghanistan, 2019. The photo showed David in full combat gear, prone on a rooftop, his rifle extended, his face focused and intense. He looked like exactly what he was, a highly trained warrior at the peak of his abilities. 3 months after this photo was taken, Marcus continued, Captain Chen's convoy hit an IED. The blast was massive. 5 Marines were injured. Captain Chen took the worst of it, shrapnel to his lower back, severing his spinal cord. He was medically evacuated to Germany, then to the States. He lost the use of his legs, Jesse said, but he didn't lose his skill, didn't lose his mind, didn't lose his purpose. The gunnery sergeant addressed David directly. Sir, what are you doing now? Tell these kids. David, who'd been quiet during his Marines' testimonials, spoke up. I work as a contractor for the Marine Corps. I train the next generation of scout snipers. I can't deploy anymore, but I can teach. I've trained over 200 snipers in the past 3 years. Many of them are deployed right now, using the skills I taught them to protect American lives. And, Marcus added, with obvious pride, Captain Chen holds the record at the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School for the longest successful training shot, 1,400 yards, from a wheelchair. He set that record last year. One of the football players, the one who'd been the most vocal, finally found his voice. Sir, Captain, we didn't know. We're sorry. We thought... You thought I was just some guy in a wheelchair, David finished for him. Someone broken, someone useless, someone to mock because it made you feel superior. The player nodded, shame clear on his face. And you're wearing Marine Corps t-shirts, David continued, his voice harder now. Claiming to respect the Marines, to be patriots. But respect isn't about wearing a shirt. It's about honoring the people who earned that emblem. It's about recognizing sacrifice when you see it, even if it doesn't look the way you expected. Another player spoke up, his voice shaking slightly. Sir, we were completely out of line. Is there anything we can do to make this right? David was quiet for a moment, then looked at the 40 Marines surrounding him. Actually, yes, there is something you can do. Anything, the leader said quickly. Take off those shirts, David said. The players looked confused. You haven't earned the right to wear the eagle, globe, and anchor, David explained. Those symbols represent sacrifice, brotherhood, and service. They represent every Marine who's ever bled, fought, or died for this country, and you disrespected that today. The players hesitated, then slowly removed their Marine Corps shirts, leaving them in their undershirts. Now, David continued, if you truly want to honor the Marines, to be patriots, to do something meaningful with your lives, here's what you do. You serve. Maybe not in the military, not everyone is cut out for that, but you serve your community, you volunteer, you help people who need it, you stand up for others instead of mocking them. You become the kind of men worthy of wearing that emblem, and maybe someday, if you've truly earned it, you can wear those shirts again. The leader nodded, tears actually forming in his eyes. Yes, sir, we will, I promise. One of the female Marines spoke up. And one more thing, you see someone in a wheelchair, someone with a disability, someone who looks different. You don't assume weakness. You don't assume limitation. You treat them with the same respect you'd want for yourself, because you have no idea what battles they've fought, what they've survived, or what they're capable of. "Yes, ma'am," the players said in unison. The gunnery sergeant stepped forward. "Now apologize to Captain Chen properly and then leave." The 5 football players approached David's wheelchair. Each one knelt down to his eye level and offered a genuine, heartfelt apology. "Captain Chen, I'm deeply sorry for how we treated you. You're a hero, and we were disrespectful. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice." David accepted each apology with a nod, and then the 5 young men left the coffee shop quietly, carrying their Marine Corps shirts in their hands, their earlier arrogance completely shattered. After they left, the 40 Marines erupted in applause and laughter, gathering around David, patting him on the back, sharing stories and catching up. Maya, the barista, approached with a tray full of coffee. "Captain Chen, all these drinks are on the house for you and your Marines. Thank you for your service." The next 2 hours were exactly what these monthly meetups were supposed to be. Marines reconnecting, sharing memories, supporting each other, and reminding themselves why their brotherhood mattered. But toward the end, Marcus pulled David aside. "Sir, can I ask you something? Those kids, they really got to you, didn't they? I saw it in your eyes." David was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "It's not the mockery. I've dealt with worse. It's the disconnect. They were wearing our symbols, claiming to respect what we do while actively disrespecting one of us. It reminded me that a lot of people see the Marines as a brand, an image, a fashion statement. They don't see the reality." "The reality is you," Marcus said. "A man who gave everything for his country and is still serving, still teaching, still making a difference. That's what they needed to see." "I hope they learned something," David said. "They did," Marcus assured him. "And even if they didn't, everyone else in that coffee shop did. You handled that with the same precision you used to handle everything else. Calm, controlled, effective." David smiled. "Ironside, right? Ironside forever, sir." As the gathering wound down and Marines began heading home to their families, David sat alone for a moment, finishing his coffee. He thought about those 5 college kids, about their Marine Corps shirts, about their assumption that he was broken and useless. He thought about the 89 enemy combatants he'd eliminated to protect American lives, about the 200-plus snipers he'd trained, about the 400-yard shot he'd made from his wheelchair, proving that skill and determination mattered more than working legs. He thought about the 40 Marines who'd shown up today, who would show up every month, who would show up any time he needed them, because that's what Marines did. They never left anyone behind. The wheelchair was just metal and rubber. His legs were just flesh and bone that no longer functioned. But his purpose, his skill, his brotherhood, those could never be taken away. Captain David Ironside Chen rolled his wheelchair toward the exit, ready to head home, ready for his next training session, ready for whatever challenges came next. Because some things never changed. Marines adapted, Marines overcame, and Marines never, ever quit. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Have you ever seen someone wearing military symbols without understanding what they represent? Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance? Share your story in the comments below, and if this story moved you, if it reminded you that wearing the shirt doesn't mean you've earned the title, and that real heroes come in all forms, hit that subscribe button because everyone deserves respect. Sacrifice should be honored, and sometimes the person you underestimate is the most dangerous person in the room.